to order. Oh,
Yeah.
I did good practicing. Good morning. It's still 8:02. This is the regular meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board of Directors, September 18th, 2024. If we could have a roll call, please.
Director Chavajian?
Here.
Director Gagliardi?
Here.
Director Pick is absent today. Director Miller?
Here.
Director
Here.
and Chair Leffel.
Here. He's weak.
Yes.
If we could have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Director Miller, would you lead us?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Communications, announcements, informational items.
None from staff other than just, you should have received the latest schedule that we have for the Thunderbirds. If you'd help us get that word out so that everyone knows that there's going to be noise during that weekend, that would be great.
Good, thank you.
And Madam Chair, I do have one. You have an amended agenda at your desk. There was an item added on closed session. It was online,
No.
but hard copies were not delivered to you, so we printed out hard copies of the agenda for you. It's the item specifically is item number one on closed session.
You want to say anything about the conference?
Not right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Public comment on any item that is not on the agenda. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you? I'm perfect.
Morning. Hi, Joyce Hofferman. Why is the airport's attorney answering concerns about errant flights and noise abuses? It gives the wrong impression. I will continue to address airport problems to our district's board. As your attorney stated, the instrument flight rules are for over the bay departure is called Monterey 5 departure. There are visual flight rules for over the bay departure too, also known as noise abatement rules. I'm concerned that the Monterey 5 departure procedures are not being followed as written. The 1987 Monterey Airport documentation shows both the visual and the instrument flight rules. This is from the documentation that was said at the last airport meeting did not exist before the 1990 ANCA. Here it is. All the pictures your attorney showed at the last airport meeting were not following the mandatory Monterey 5 departure. The aircraft are either turning the wrong way, not turning at all, or turning too late, according to the explicit Monterey 5 departure instructions. The instructions say at 1,100 feet altitude, turn right to 329 degrees. This is not done most of the time. These are mandatory FAA procedures for commercial and business jets that are not being followed. As far as aircraft waiting to depart, San Jose aircraft typically wait 20 minutes to depart. This is just the nature of a busy airport. We would rather have the FAA directly respond to the public regarding any air traffic regulations. Besides the published FAA procedures and wind direction practices not being followed, there appear to be several fundamental problems with the airport's location. Dangerous fog conditions early in the morning, repeated aircraft diversions, runway surrounded by residential property, limited to one runway and a tiny runway next to the one runway. Be a challenge to add further flights and have intense traffic.
You have 30 seconds left.
Okay,
30
the
seconds.
bottom line is the public wants FAA related questions and concerns to be directly answered from FAA representatives and not an attorney. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else from the public that would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda?
Madam Chair, I see no hands raised online.
All right, thank you. I'm going to close public comment. We have a consent agenda in front of us that has 4 items. Would anyone from the public like to pull any of those items? Would any of my fellow board members like to pull an item?
I move that we pass the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Director Trabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. All right, we're going to have a presentation on the ramp construction project update.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. As we give us a second to get up a presentation that we have. I am going to give you an update on a couple other projects as well, just quickly. Hey. So, good. I'm going to start with the ARF building. We did receive, as you can see, in July of 2024, our LEED Silver certification
All right.
from the LEED Institute for that project, for that building.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And we will be putting a plaque up on the building in addition to our certification that we have here. So just wanted to give you that update.
Yeah.
That is now official. The well water line project, and you probably noticed as you were coming in this morning, some plates in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
So that project started, the notice to proceed was given at the end of June to the contractor. They started in July and completed the improvements in the upper short-term exit area lot. So what used to be, as you were going to long-term, our old long-term lot. So they were doing those improvements in the July timeframe and getting through so that it didn't impact the other project that we're working on for the ramp. So that was completed in July. And then they took a break because we needed to go in front of the terminal building and start to go down towards the QTA, and knowing that summer travel was going to be busy and a lot of in and out of activity with passenger pickup and drop off. We waited until after Labor Day to get that project started. So they began back again 2 weeks ago. They waited a week till after Labor Day and have begun to do the installation of those improvements, which include the water line from the well, as well as the electrical and the communication cabling as that support that well. That will then be going down to the car rental facility so that we can take them off the CalAm and put them on the non-potable water well.
Excellent.
So that will continue in front of the terminal building. And then about October, we'll be getting down into the rental car lot and then installing the improvements at the ready return facility that is a part of the car rental facilities. So that project is moving forward.
Wow.
Couple of photos. So you can see here, that's to the left is the one where they were working over on the long-term, short-term parking lot. And to the right is the work that they've been doing at night. So the work in front of the terminal building is happening in the evening, starts at 9 p.m. and it goes till about 5 in the morning. So that is with traffic control while we have passengers being picked up. Of course, there are no departures at that time. Commercial apron project. So I want to bring you update. I have a few videos that I'll show with you and I'll walk you through a little bit of what's been going on out there. So again, the notice to proceed was given to the contractor, Granite Rock Vanguard JV, on November 30th, 2023. We are 165 plus working days, and I'm saying plus because this was as of one date, but today's another date. So I'm just going about 165 working days have been completed to date. Through August of 31st of 2024, we have replaced 360 parking spaces were created in the temporary long-term lot. And just to note that we had 319 official spaces in the previous long-term lot. So we did add some additional spaces. And it was really based on when we looked at our historical average, 364 to 5 was really when we peaked. So we think, that we have been able to, allow for in the temporary condition what we need right now at this time, but we also have contingency plans that Whitney's team has in place for additional spaces if ever needed. They have And this is with all the buildings that were removed. 666,615 tons of waste have been diverted from the landfill with the when they demolished the buildings. And approximately 158,000 cubic yards of dirt have been removed. That's that cut, and you'll see it through the videos here, and reused on airport property. So all of that has remained. Mhm.
Could you go into a little more detail on the waste diversion?
Mhm.
Um,
So, the buildings themselves, were a material that could be recycled.
got it.
So that's what, and we're tracking all of that. We are actually working towards, similar to you
Yeah.
just saw with the
Right.
lead.
Yeah.
Flatwork can do what's called Envision certification. So we are tracking all this to get an Envision certification on this project as
Got it.
well.
Thank you.
So just a reminder of the project footprint. So as you can see, those hangars are the ones we just talked about that were all demolished, and all of that was diverted and recycled. You see where the long-term parking lot existed, as well as the ARF building. So that was the footprint before we started. And this is a Google Earth image. So they have taken another image from satellite, which I thought was really exciting. And it was dated June 15th. What I like about this is you can see we have cars in both parking lots. So this was when we started our transition. We started our transition from the former long-term parking lot on June 14th and started to move over on June 15th. You get to see in the middle of those two parking lots, an area that wasn't paved yet, or that is a detention basin that was done. So in the interim of those two lots, we were doing that work. We didn't have that parking available yet, but we do now. To the right, you can see before you get to the 2801 properties, that area that is scraped, that is where the contractors have their laydown. And that's also the area that will be for a batch plant for concrete when we get ready to do that. And you can see that they have scraped and cut a good portion of the area to the right. So you're starting to, and I'm going to walk you through, get a sense of what it's going to look like and the breadth of the ramp that we will have for the aircraft to park on in the future. So
Chris, what is
Yep.
the timing on the batch plant?
The batch plant is going to be coming to us in mid-October. So we will be doing social media and postings around it. Not being used yet, but it will be started to be constructed, and it's about a 2-week construction of bringing it in, getting it erected, and then testing it to make sure it is working properly.
Okay, and I'm sure you have, but just a reminder that probably to each of our tenants over
Mhm.
there at 2801, not just a email or letter, but a
Mhm.
personal phone call.
Yep.
I know you always say, but I just want to make sure that
Absolutely.
we are doing that because we don't want to have a backlash on it. They've been pretty good so
Yep.
far
They're
with no
enjoying watching.
complaints.
They've enjoyed watching the project is what they've told us. So, so this is a video that I'm going to show you. And if you can see the date on that on the bottom, it is July 9th. So remember about the 14th is when we started to make the transition over. So within 3 weeks, we had moved all but 3 cars over, all but 3 cars had moved and were parking in the new lot. One of those was abandoned. One was someone that had left for a while. And the third one is someone that has left for a really long time. They got sick out of state and haven't been able to come back. So really easy, just that we had 3, but I want you to kind of watch this and watch from the left as it works to the right, how quickly they make this parking lot is removed. I think I just need to click this one. There we go. And you'll see it comes through day and night. So here we are. So we're just on the 10th right now, just copying some surveying as they're going through. And here we go, starting from the left. You're starting, if you can see really far to the left, the construction. This is one day right here. This is what they did in one day. So, and take it down at about 1 foot intervals as they're going through and moving that dirt off site, orbiting it in them. And they had, I think, 6 to 8 large trucks that were bringing it to the north side. So pretty impressive as you watch this cut go through and die. So that's the first for July, and then we're going to go into August. So here they've started in August, going through a little bit more And this is where we're going to really start to see the footprint bearing right now. And I'm going to show you where that's to give you some orientation to where they're doing all the surveying. And while they're doing this on this end, you can see some crews as this is going on. So they have two crews working here as they're working through compression. Electrical is going to be going in, and then you're going to watch as the color changes on that east end, and they're doing the rebar and putting down a cement concrete to stabilize that soil and get it ready for. So that's where we'll be going next. But a couple more minutes through here. Some of the equipment that they brought in black coming, that's that concrete that I told you the area. And then here is now the wall is pretty much up and you can forming, and to the left, you can see they poured some of the concrete wall, then, and it's got an angle and right up to the center so that it stabilized it as they were doing it. And there you go. So if you look at the east end or the right end, as we're looking at that 90-degree angle wall, that is the footprint and the edge of the terminal building. So that's starting to get a sense of where that's going to be. This wall will be backfilled from where you see the parking lot up to about a foot below that wall. And then there'll be a decorative fence on the top where you see the rebar currently. So that will be the permanent condition. And you can now see the depth difference or the height difference between where the aircraft are going to be and where the terminal first floor will be.
First floor, meaning where the baggage and
No.
everything
No,
is,
first floor where all the where everyone will be.
where
So
the people are,
correct.
the only floor.
So the baggage and everything will be on the bottom of that wall. And basically where the parking lot is behind it is where that height is where the first floor, where all the passenger experience will be up here.
So we have a first floor and a basement.
And a
if-
basement.
The way you're talking.
Correct.
Not two floors.
Correct.
So,
First
okay,
floor.
I want to
It's-
make sure I
It's still a
understand.
ranch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it is still a ranch with a basement, which you don't get here. Absolutely. So another sense of, so this is the east end that we were looking at so this gives you another sense of the walls. This will be a vehicle service road that will allow, it's not a public road. It will allow activity to get down to the ramp. So if we have to bring in if the airlines need new equipment, if we need to service things. So this will be a way for them to get down there. And a great look from east towards west, and you can see what that looks like. I want to go back a little bit. You can somewhat see the end of that wall that we're looking at here. So that in between those two, that edge of that really far east wall and the edge of this 90-degree wall here is the footprint for the building. So it really lines up the eastern edge of the footprint of the building is approximately where the beginning of the 2801 properties. So it's a sense, starting to see and get a feel for how it's going to fit here.
It doesn't look that big when you just look at it.
It does not. But then when you
Yeah,
look
let's
this
figure-
way and you see what we have
Yeah.
available
Yeah.
for the aircraft, that looks,
Yeah, that looks much bigger.
What's gonna go in right here in the foreground?
that's mitigation plants. So
Okay.
they needed to take
Yeah.
that down to be able to build those walls and stuff. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can somewhat see some flags in there. They actually have put in manzanita in
Okay.
there. So we're using that as some of our mitigation
Yeah.
areas for the environmental sensitive species that were removed during the project.
Awesome.
And this is, again, just to give you that footprint of what we just talked about. So you can see, and unfortunately, I'm going to get up to show you because laser printer doesn't work, or the laser doesn't work on here. I just want to show you. Here's that 90-degree wall that we're looking at right here. Here's your footprint of the terminal building that we were just talking about. Here's the edge of that eastern wall. And then you've got the other wall that brings you down. So that's that vehicle service road. All of this is our aircraft parking. And then right now, this is our long-term parking. This is where the batch plant will be up in here. And this was the detention basin that we installed that you didn't see initially in that Google Earth image. This was still dirt. That's been installed and now we have parking there. And this is the contractor entrance. So that just gives you, again, an idea of where we're going and what it's going to look like when we do get to the next phase of the project. Couple more to show you. So how are we communicating? Again, I think we've showed this to you before, and I note the banner on the top too that tells the, talking about the traffic in front of the terminal building. So that's the water line traffic. We're just cautioning people that there will be flaggers there. Be aware as you come to pick people up, but also our Metamorphosis page that's got everything on it. We've revamped it a little bit. So if you go into it, you'll see in there that we have the replacement terminal, as well as all of the program progress, et cetera. So this is a work in progress, and this will be extremely key when we get to the terminal building for sure. But it is a way for us to communicate today on this project that isn't so much affecting the passengers, but when we get to the next phase for sure. So we want people to get comfortable of this is where you go. We've added some banners along the walkway. We thought that we have a captive audience as they're maybe not walking to their aircraft because they're kind of going quickly to get into the terminal, but as they're coming home and leaving and getting back to their car. So we've added these 3 banners along that, and those are up currently. As you can see, that is a photo. Really
That's a big
just
improvement. Thank you.
and it just, it doesn't hide, but it gives a reason for why all this construction is going on. So
Yeah, that's
people
great.
really get to see it. There is a QR code there that they can use their phone, capture it, and when they get home, it takes them right to that Metamorphosis page that we have. And lastly, we have created some business cards for the project, and I have a box for each of you. So we figured this is the easiest way, instead of trying to explain everything to everybody, that you have a business card that you can just hand out that talks about the Metamorphosis. It's got a QR code on the back of it, so people can just take it. So if you're out talking with people and they want to know more about the project, we have more than enough of these. Staff will have them, and it's just another way for us to continue to communicate with people, and they don't have to remember a website. With that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Open it up. Carol?
Thank you, Chris. That's great. The long-term lot at 364 spaces now, is that what it is going to be? Or will it be larger, smaller?
It'll be larger. We will have more. We'll have, I forget the number, 400 something, 419 possibly. Don't quote me on that exactly, but in that range. We will have more in the permanent configuration.
And it will be out in that same area?
It will. Let me try to show you. So where you see the orientation of the existing long-term lot, it will shift. So instead of going with the rows north to south, the rows will go east to west.
Okay.
Actually, if I can bring up maybe the metaphor.
Where the batch plant is, will that
Yeah,
be parking?
That will be parking. I thought maybe one of these photos had it, but it does not. So yes, so it will go east, it will go east to west. And so long-term will be back along the 68 corridor area up. There'll be a road in the middle, and then we'll have premium parking in front of the terminal, again, east to west.
Okay.
So it will be reoriented once we get to the permanent condition.
I'm asked because I saw in one of the comments that people were complaining about how many miles away long-term parking is now. I'm like, you have no idea in a real airport, but and asking if we were going to have a shuttle for long-term parking, which I don't know, again, is necessary, but it's basically in that same area, and which really is a short distance from the terminal.
Yeah, if I go back to, let me see if I have it. Oops, sorry. I know it appears longer, but if you were parked in that back corner up along the edge by the fire department, you were pretty far away from and if we've measured it, it's similar steps. It's just you're taking a different route. You don't see, it's not a direct visual for people. So it really feels longer because before you could see, you're here and you see the terminal here. Now you have to go this way to go this way. And again, footsteps, we've measured it, it's similar, but it just appears that much longer.
Just feels different. And we are not planning to do any shuttles, are we?
No, not at this point. We are going to have some conversations with an organization, Veterans of Foreign Wars, that does golf cart shuttle. And we may have some conversation with them about doing that. Problem that we have with shuttles is we open the terminal building at 4 o'clock. and we closed the building just after midnight after our last arrival. That's a long period of time to cover. So
Yep.
I think chances are fairly slim, but we'll have the conversation and see if they can maybe bridge for a few hours or something that would make it a little easier. But
Or maybe some kind of ADA accommodation if we need to.
But we still have
I think
our-
everything is ADA compliant.
Because we still have all our ADA parking right here in the
Okay.
short-term parking lot, and that is at the same price as
Okay.
the long-term. So
Okay.
if they have an ADA placard, they just show it when they exit. So we meet those requirements and have more than enough ADA parking spaces here to accommodate our requirements.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Director Miller.
Thank you. Nice presentation. Have we filled up with the parking spaces we have? Okay, well, that's good news.
We have not, we have not yet come to our peak holiday season with Christmas and Thanksgiving. But no, we tend to only fill up what's closest to the terminal. The back quadrant stays relatively empty.
Very good. I know we've had talk, at least I've been asking the question, about possibly adding solar to the parking lot. Any thought about that or?
There may be the opportunity to, the building itself be built to be EV receptive. So we can put at some point in the future, it's not current.
On top of the terminal.
Top of the terminal. In the parking lot, no, that really didn't work out. Chris, help me understand.
Yeah, it's cost, honestly. The parking lot EVs are very expensive because of all the steel they require to be able to hold those solar panels. So it really is down to cost, that it's extremely expensive to put that in.
And how are we doing on our timeline? It seems like we're actually ahead of schedule. Is that just a sense I have or?
A little bit back and forth, they've moved pretty quickly, as you can see, how quickly that was all of couple weeks of all of that
Right.
cut. But then, it's a different crew that comes in to do utilities or things like that. So they kind of stand down a little bit, not completely, they have other crews that are doing, like the wall crew was a different crew. So right now, I think they're definitely on schedule. Will they be ahead of schedule? Most likely, but their full schedule is not showing it to be too much more than they had anticipated originally. But they will have completed the project within the required 440 working days.
And their project does not include the new parking lot or will it?
No,
Okay,
their project does not include the new parking lot. Their project is simply that temporary and then all of the airside work. So it includes all of that ramp work that we're watching, the apron work that we're watching, as well as the reconfiguration of Kilo and Juliet, taxiways Kilo and Juliet.
so when we do the math, what is the completion date?
For this project,
Yes, this portion of
this
it.
portion of the project is, right now, their CMP schedule shows it completed in August of 2025.
So there'll be some
Over-
concurrence overlap where they're working on the terminal and still completing this.
Most likely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Director Gagliotti.
I don't have any questions. I'm really impressed with this and thank you very much for that video. That was fascinating.
Welcome.
No, I'm really, really happy with this. This is great.
I have a question. When I came in last Friday night, it was pretty chaotic out in front because they were working and they had a lot of heavy equipment. And it was our plane was full coming in out of Phoenix. So just if we could put a big bulletin maybe on our webpage and scroll it, that if you're coming to pick up during the evening pickup hours, please be aware that there is construction in front of the terminal because it was pretty messy.
It's right there. We have it. So it's that orange banner that's right there.
Do we have it on Instagram? I saw we were advertising for KRML that some guy was singing, and I was thinking maybe we could put something on Instagram that we have a parking issue and keep putting it on. People don't just see it and remember, but I think if we just keep popping it out there, because the one thing that they find fault with is our communication. So I think we just need to bombard them with it,
Over communicate.
over communicate. Yeah.
Well, and
so.
at that time, there's 2 or 3.
Pardon, I
flights.
can't hear you. Speak up.
Sorry. Sometimes at that hour too, there's 2 or 3 flights that'll come in. It'll really get messy.
So I was just lucky because I didn't have a Legion or something at the same time. But Pebble Beach had, I think, 2 or 3 vehicles, and then we had the Ubers and the taxis and then the people. So just FYI. And it's not a complaint. It's not a I'm finding fault with you. I'm just trying to give you my feedback as a traveler who came in and see that there might be a little issue out there.
Yeah, thank you. The curb front is a challenge to begin with. and
Absolutely.
You put construction in there and it's going to get a little messy. So thank you for that.
And it was interesting. There was only 1 car in the short-term parking out there because I don't think they thought they could come past the construction and then go in there. So that was part of the problem. No one was pulling in and parking to come to meet somebody. They were all just lined up and then circling until they got their bags. So anyway, thank you. And I love the video, seeing it. It's like crazy. Did we have any public comment on this? I will open it up.
I don't see any hands, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Our second item is an amendment to the professional services agreement with Helmuth, Obata, and Casabom, Inc. to provide design support services for the Safety Enhancement Program, Taxiway A Relocation, Phase D3, Terminal Complex Landside Improvements.
Wow.
Brian.
Good morning. As you mentioned, I'm here to discuss an amendment to the professional service agreement with HOK that was signed in April of 2023. This amendment is specifically related to construction administration for architecture and engineering oversight in support of the construction manager at-risk team for the terminal complex landside improvement. The contract amendment is not to exceed $697,267. An independent fee estimate was completed, and the estimate was under the HOK fee by $37,915, or about 5%. This fee proposal was considered reasonable as reviewed by the IFE. The cost is included in the FAA funding request through the Airport Improvement Program Terminal Complex Landside Improvement Grant. The AIP grant provides 90.66%, or $632,142 as the AIP share of the costs, and 9.34%, or $65,125 is the district share from passenger facility charges. With that, it's the recommendation of the staff that the amendment is approved. And I know from the previous meeting that there's going to be a few questions, so I'm standing by to answer any you might have.
All right, I'll open it up to the public for any comments or questions.
No hands, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. I'll bring it back to the board. Director Gagliotti.
No, I don't have any questions. We covered this pretty good at in finance.
Director Miller,
None for me. Thank you.
Director Chabajian.
None for me. Thank you.
I still just have a question on the date because it says the amendment is dated August 21st. And I know you told me that must be when you got it from them, but typically isn't something the date we sign it as opposed to the date we get it from somebody? Or did we already start this and this is a cleanup? What are we doing?
So let me just, it's the amendment date that is on the project, although they updated it since, so the one that you had looked at finance was dated by HOK as that date. So that what it was talking about. It was talking about the date on the HOK scope of work. So that they did update it so we can.
Okay,
update that.
so Chris, I'm looking at it and down under contract amendment, I see the construction fees dated August 7th on the scope of work. But up in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth paragraph, it says this amendment dated August 21st is to the agreement. And that's the one I'm questioning. I just I think it should be today's date, the date that we're actually going to sign it, as opposed to the date that they prepared it. Because it looks like they tried to get it ready for our August meeting and we didn't get it. And so it got kicked to September. That's what I'm thinking.
That is true, and that is what happened. So I would say we will change the date under paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to today's date. And we will change the date under the contract amendment on the first paragraph where it says dated August 7th, which should be September 9th, because they updated that scope of work.
Okay, thank you. Now you made me happy. That's what I was asking in finance, and I guess I didn't ask it clear enough, so I didn't. But then I was reading it again yesterday, and I'm like, it just doesn't read well. So, okay. So we're gonna have an amendment on the 5th paragraph. That would be September the, what is today, 18th?
18th.
Yeah.
And on the above, which one are we changing?
Second from, the last paragraph on the first, the second from the last paragraph on the first page, where it says the construction
9th.
administration fees dated, and it will be September 9th, because that's the date on the scope of work from HOK.
Okay, okay. So, thank you. Just trying to keep us honest.
No, that's absolutely fine.
And I get it. You got a lot of pieces of paper flying around over there. So with that, I would call for a motion, and you don't have to read the whole thing again on the
So
amendment,
moved.
amendment to
I'll
HOK.
second it. Second it with the changes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And is your motion with the changes?
Of course.
Okay. So roll call, please.
Director Tripajian,
Aye.
Director Gaglione,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Item number 3 is the amendment to the non-federal reimbursable agreement between the Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, and the Monterey Peninsula Airport District. Who is doing that?
I am
Chris?
doing that
would
one
be
as
Kristen
well.
then.
Yeah. So when we were going through the project update, as we were looking at the construction that's currently going on, we are going to be, when we get to the terminal building itself, there is a cable. It's the RTR cable, which is the remote transmitter receiver cable. So it's the communication cable between the tower, air traffic control tower, and those towers that are to our east, past our 2801 properties up on the hill there.
By
So-
the highway storage place.
Correct, by the highway storage. So there are some towers there that are FAA-owned equipment, and that's communication between, for radar, et cetera, between the air traffic control tower and that location. That line, that communication line will run right underneath the footprint of where the new terminal building will be. So we are, in this project that we're working on right now, relocating the conduit for it. And FAA has to, because it's FAA-owned equipment, they have to be part of and review and inspect that as we're going along. So we had the first phase of the project that the board approved with FAA was to review the engineering documents. And now we need them to be here on site to review the construction as they go. So that's what this amendment is for. Now that they've looked at the documents, they know how much time it's going to take them. They've estimated all that in, and they will be available to the contractor to inspect as we go along, so that when we get to the terminal building and do it, we don't have any outages. We're trying to plan, we're planning ahead, having this all ready, so that when the terminal contractor comes in and needs to take that cable out of service, we already have relocated it. So that is what this is for. Again, it was a two-phase project process. Initially, you had approved the initial phase of it for 81,834. So that was approved. This is an additional 246,944 for a total. This will be eligible for a grant at the back end. So this will be included in our cost request for a grant when we do the terminal. But we have to front it right now because this is an estimate and we pay it. And then if we don't spend it all, they give us the money back. We've done this before. We've actually gotten money back. So this is kind of a placeholder that a little bank of money that Tech Ops has to use to be able to do this project. But it is all tracked. We get tracking for it every month. as they use the dollars as well. So with that, we'd request that you approve this amendment.
All right. I'll open it up for public comment.
None.
All right, thank you. I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. Director Chabajian.
Yes, thank you. So a quick question. When the sponsor agrees to prepay the entire estimated amount of the agreement, has the first phase, the 81,000, that been prepaid?
It has been prepaid.
And so then
correct.
what we're going to be prepaying then will be the 246, 943.37?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. And when do we have to repay that?
As soon as you approve it, we will do that, so
Okay.
that this contractor is ready to get started.
Okay,
So the sooner we can get this completed and FA has it all signed off, then they can schedule, it has to be done, we have to pay it, they can schedule their team, the FA team, to give us a time, a window so that our contractor can get started and the inspections happen as they're going along.
then one other, there was in the change, the FAA will accept payments under this article from only one of two sources. That was a change that wasn't in the original. Why is that? Why was that change in there?
Was it in which?
The
I'm sorry.
D, on the change to, down, D was
Is there a
the
page,
FAA.
please? Could you tell me what page?
The
that is?
FAA will, on the change to, D has changed
Page
to.
11 of 12 on the bottom of that.
Yeah, on the bottom, yeah, sorry, 11 of 12, sorry. The FAA will accept payments under this article from only one of two sources. Why is that a change from the way they were accepting payments?
No,
Or why is
that's just how they have you can send in a check,
Okay,
which is the that will take at least 2 weeks for it to get to them, for them to process it and get it through the system, or you can do an electronic funds transfer. So those are the two ways you can do it.
because that was not in the original one.
Uh,
I didn't see it.
and
That should be,
Yeah.
that is typical and usual.
Okay, all right, yeah, I didn't know whether that was a change from something
No,
that they
it
typically
is
do.
not.
Okay.
We will use we always use the electronic
Yeah.
submittal.
Okay.
It's the money comes to us back
Okay.
faster.
That's it, thank you.
And you have a record of it.
Yeah, right. The check's in the mail, right? That's great, thank you very much.
All right, Director Miller.
Thank you. So this would be eligible for grant funding under AIP?
it will be, once we close it all out, once it's completed and the process is done, they give us a final billing, and that's what then we can ask for reimbursement from AIP. Yes.
And I mean, there's two parts to AIP. One is the guaranteed money that we have based on our employments, or is it competitive? No, they have a competitive side too.
We do. As with all AIP projects, there is the entitlement program.
Entitlement, that's the word I was
Yeah.
groping
And
for.
then when everyone has gotten their entitlements, the remaining funds are discretionary. And they're competitive. That's where you compete with every other airport for discretionary funds. The program is very similar with bipartisan infrastructure legislation. There is an entitlement component to that. And then the balance is discretionary as well. So it's competitive.
Okay. So we are at least guaranteed to get it under our guaranteed entitlement money?
We will, yes, yeah. You will
Okay.
have the entitlement money to reimburse yourselves with. Chances of you having to do that are very, very slim. You'll have other grant dollars that you'll have access to.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Director Gagliotti.
I don't have any questions.
All right, I had no questions. I would entertain a motion on this item, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second,
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
we'll give it to John. He's been
Okay, thank
handling all
you.
my seconds today and
It's your official backup,
Yeah, absolutely.
your wingman.
Director Chabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliotti,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Okay, item number 4, amendment to the professional services agreement with Labor Consultants of California to provide labor monitoring services.
And I promise, I think this is the last for all those grants we got contract that you have to approve. I know there've been a lot of them.
Hey, we like 'em.
Yes.
And they all have been included in the grants that we received, but one of the requirements of taking federal dollars is labor compliance. There are a lot of requirements on the contractors to ensure that they are meeting federal law. So we use a outside contract service who stays up to date on all of these requirements, which is California Labor Consultants. We have 2 projects that they are currently working on one of our projects. And now we have the next 2 that we just got approval and funding for, the runway surface treatment and the terminal complex landside improvements. So the runway surface treatment, approximately 4 months of construction. The cost for that monitoring is $10,800. The terminal complex landside, approximately 9 months of construction. That cost for labor monitoring would be $24,300. So the total would be, again, these were included in the grant, all at 90.66% with our 9.3% district match, which we typically use PLs for. So we would ask that you approve this amount, the 2 amounts for the 2 projects for labor consultants to do the monitoring and keep us in compliance with those grants that we just got and all our requirements. Thank you.
All right, I'll open that up to the public for any comments.
See no hand, Madam Chair.
All right, I see no one here in the room coming forward and no hands raised. Thank you. I'll bring back to the board, Director Gagliotti.
Just to confirm, it's the 10-8 and the 24-3, right?
It is correct.
Yeah, right.
Yes, they're in 2 separate grants. That's
Yeah.
why we put them separately, but they are 2 different components.
Yeah, no questions. That's it.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Director Chabajian.
No questions. Thank you.
All right, and I have no questions. I would entertain a motion on the contract amendment with Labor Consultants.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
I'm gonna see how many seconds I can get through.
A new record.
Mhm.
Roll call, please.
Director Chabajian.
Aye.
Director Gagliotti.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, I would, as chair, like to propose that we have a personnel ad hoc committee as we go into some changes in the next year or so. And this probably will be a few months, maybe maximum a year committee. And I would like to propose that the incoming chair, Director Miller, and if we go by districts, the next chair pro tem, who will be Director Pick, be appointed to this committee. So I would ask permission from the board for approval for that, and I'll open it up to the public.
Madam Chair, I see no hands.
All right. So I would bring it back to the board for a motion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go ahead and prove it. Also, I just want to make one comment that I mean, I strongly support this. I think that succession planning is an important part and smooth, the sooner we get ahead of this, the better. So I strongly support this.
Thank you. And you made the motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the creation of the Personnel Ad Hoc Committee.
Thank you.
With the members as
Oh, that's-
outlined by.
Thank you very
Fair.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, with those, Director Picked and Director Miller as the first members.
I'll second that.
And I'm sorry, my turn.
Yes.
So usually ad hoc committees last for 1 year or until the,
Yeah, they can last for up to 1 year. They can be renewed if they need to go beyond a year, but usually they last for the duration of the need for a specific need. Frequently, it's less than a year, but if it goes beyond a year, then it needs to be renewed. when you, typically they're renewed annually when you do all of the other formal committees that you have.
Which we can look at.
Which you can look at that time, yeah, if necessary.
Are there requirements for any written conclusion of the committee, or we just make a notation or
No.
something in the record?
No,
something in the
what would
minutes.
happen is if something needs to be brought back to the board as a whole, then the comments would be made at that time.
Are you trying to figure out how much work you're getting?
Yeah,
I have a first and a second. If I could have a roll call, please.
Director Chabajian,
Aye.
Director Gagliardi,
Aye.
Director Miller,
yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. All right, we're going to move on here. Acceptance of the department reports and the board reports. So the department of reports are in your package. If you would like to have any comment on any of the department reports that are in the package, this is the time. I'll open it up to the public if there is comment on anything that is in the package in department reports.
See no hands, Madam Chair.
All right. Mr. Audience, do you have anything? All right. I can kind of see you, Matt. Okay, I'm going to close the public comment on this item. I'll open it up to the board. Director Chabajian, did you have anything you wanted to comment on this? I know you commented on the long-term parking issue earlier.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right, Director Miller?
We didn't have a lease committee meeting because of the conflict with the conference.
Director Gagliardi?
None, no.
And I had none. So we will move on to any board member questions for any of the standing committees or any comments that were made by anyone who attended. So LAFCO did not meet last month. We meet next Monday. And I haven't seen the package yet, so I can't give you a glimmer even of what's coming. Regional Taxi Authority only meets once a year, and that was reported on last month, so that one's done. Transportation Agency for Monterey County?
2 quick comments. They still have not made any decision on Highway 68 as far as adaptive signaling or roundabouts. The big thing that they've been working on now is the SURF project, and this will take the railroad tracks from Marina to Monterey and replace them with a road that would only be used by buses. The hope being that in the morning when you see those cars backed all the way up to Marina, a bus would be able to bypass that, get people off the road, and hopefully lower traffic. The big resistance has been with the train people who don't want to see the tracks removed. These tracks haven't been used in 30 years. They're only, well, besides a small operation with hand carts, but we haven't had trains on them in quite some time. So the report is that if trains were to come and the door is still left open for that, they can always be added. They would have to put in new tracks anyway. So those tracks, at least in some of the location, will be coming up to accommodate the road. But the project is moving forward. We have a few years before it's done.
And it did pass coastal, right?
It did pass coastal, yes. Coastal initially had denied it.
Right.
They worked out the problems they had, and they're very supportive. I believe that was a unanimous vote by Coastal Commission. And it's
7-1.
7-1, okay. And it is getting a lot of support by elected officials, including Laird is very much behind it and helping to facilitate it. But the train people are very upset. That's all I have.
Any questions on that? And just, it will go from Marina to Seaside.
Yes,
And then it cuts in, not Monterey.
Yeah.
So it
Or
cuts,
Sin City, it goes to the bus depot at where Target is, right?
but it uses the tracks.
Yes, yeah.
Only to the
Yeah.
edge of Sand City, Seaside. So, thank you. Special districts did not meet. They'll meet in October. And Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments, I did not participate because I was traveling on airport business. But I do have an appointment next week to sit down with Heather Adamson, who is in charge of the RENA planning. And she is actually convening planning department staff throughout the county to work with them on some of the goals and how they're getting there. So I'm just going to, I have a 20-some year relationship with her. So I'm going to sit down with her and just make sure I am caught up, and I'll report fully next month if there's anything that really impacts us. There is a lot of new housing that is approved. Marina is breaking ground on 1,300 new units to the north side between the edge of where housing is now out toward the landfill in MW1. So that is going to change that landscape out there, but it is 1,300 new houses. Obviously, they will not all be at once, but they will be, they're coming online. So, and the Dunes and Shea are, if you see what's going on along the freeway with all of the new townhouses and everything, those will all be released to the market within the next few months. So there's going to be a lot more rooftops, which for us long-term is very good because it shows that we'll have more ridership. So I think that's all I have. Director Miller and I will have a full written report on the conference for the next meeting, and let you all know what all who we talked to, what we did. And it was a very good conference. I would say, just off the top of my head, there is a lot of new product out there. Quite a bit. It was the first time I've seen a lot of new vendors. So maybe that's because there's Build America money and there's a lot of interest in people spending it. But it was not the same usual faces that we saw.
What's product? Like
I was
what?
just gonna ask that.
Yeah.
Different kinds of seating, different kinds, bollards, adult changing tables for they're acknowledging that there are more and more seniors traveling and people with disabled adults. And so there is a big push for the larger airports to have a full room for an adult changing table, similar to what you have for infants in current restrooms, but this would be a separate room with a piece of equipment. Just things like that we've not seen before. And they have really modernized a lot of the seating. It used to be just the same old, sit back and maybe you got to plug in or not. Now it's kind of all over the board. So,
In aircraft or just in the terminal?
no, terminal.
Yeah, this is the terminal.
Yeah, we don't, those conferences
Yeah.
really don't look at aircraft.
Okay.
The other thing that I noticed that a lot of the vendors are pushing is the self baggage checking is very big right now, including in the parking lot, we were being told, having it, and in the terminal. So I believe we're looking at that, aren't we?
We are, that would be part of the common use system
Mhm.
that we're at least exploring with the consultant, with our design team. You saw that at Painfield. You've seen it at other airports now. It is becoming the way that things happen. And it gives you the ability in your building to be very flexible and get maximum utilization out of a smaller footprint.
And the common use that's been talked about for many years, but now you got a lot of vendors that are actually, because before the big hurdle was the airlines were so proprietary, they didn't want to share information or risk sharing information, but we're scheduled to be common use, right, on all our gates?
That is what we're
Counters.
what we're proposing. That is what we're planning on in the design.
When Hal and I flew out of Tampa earlier this year, they actually had at the car rental, there the baggage handlers were there. So when we brought the car back, they were there. They're like, let's check what what flight you're on. And they took our bags. So we did not have to take them onto the shuttle. We didn't have to drag them. We
Oh,
didn't have to
nice.
do anything.
Nice.
They took them and they were in Dallas when or Monterey when
That
I
was gonna
got
be
off
my
in
question.
Monterey. Yeah, no, it worked perfectly. So I think that's probably the wave of the future. And I would just say it was seamless. It was wonderful. It's like, wow, we can just get on the shuttle and not even worry with this.
Yeah, no, and remote check-in is something that's been tried occasionally in the industry. I'm glad that it's back. What you're going to see in the industry really, and you probably learned this, is as little input, as little contact with a human being at a ticket counter as possible. That gives the airlines the opportunity to have fewer people at the ticket counter and gives passengers the ability to take care of themselves and avoid that line or that queue for the ticket counter. So the ticket counter would become then just a problem-solving area
Yeah.
where right now it is, you can book
Everybody.
everybody's
Yeah.
there. So it will unquestionably, technology will move people through the terminal building faster.
But you had staff in Tampa helping you at the rental car. So there were still people there.
It was the
Oh.
baggage, it was the parking baggage people. It's like whoever had the parking contract, I
Yeah.
believe also had baggage handling, or maybe it was I don't know if it was the airlines. So they just picked up my bags and they got
Yeah.
there and they were here when I got off the plane.
Sure.
So
But there was still personnel handling, there were
there
still
personnel,
live
sure,
bodies, yeah.
And that's kind of an interim step. And ultimately, what they're doing in other countries now, Australia and New Zealand have been on the forefront of this for some time, is you self-tag your bag and you put it through on a conveyor belt. Once it goes to the other side of the wall, the responsibility changes to the airline. So it's custody of the bag has been the issue for the United States all along, is they want that physical handoff. But the industry is changing and changing in a good way, where that physical handoff really doesn't become as key and integral to the security profile.
Yeah, that's been the challenge in this country. No matter what you do, you still have to hand it to,
Yeah.
you have to wait to hand it to somebody.
you
Yeah,
get two lines.
yeah,
You get
right,
one here and
Yeah,
one
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So what it does is eliminate one line.
which is good.
It does. And, you know, if you fly through Washington, national, and you fly on American Airlines, you're in two lines, sometimes three lines before you get rid of your bag. That's just not efficient use. Moving as quickly as the industry can, which is not exactly anything greater than glacial speed. But they're moving in that direction where you can be self-sufficient in the terminal building and move right through security, and security is also becoming much more modernized. You'll see some big changes in that arena the next few years as well. You know, rather than having to divest yourselves of everything, walk through and then recombobulate with it, and they'll just walk through and they'll screen you as you're walking through. That's the latest and greatest technology that they're working on. And yes, our new building would be able to accommodate that change.
So a lot of the airlines are complaining now because they are required to screen employees. Well, we're not, correct?
No, we are not. We are,
And but there is a transition point based on employments. Can you tell us when that happens?
yeah, I
or-
think we'll let Whitney tell you
Okay,
that.
Whitney.
That's her sphere.
That's the aviation worker screening protocol. And I'm not sure if it's based on employments as much as it is operations, but we have not yet hit the threshold. But it is something that we're aware of and that we're watching. One thing that's key in the legislation is that it's an average of your last 3 years. So even if we were to surpass the threshold, say next year, we still have to.
Do it
count
for 3
based
years.
On that average.
We've
So,
got a cushion.
Yeah.
In the terminal, the footprint of the designing of the terminal, we do have a lane dedicated for workers or for flight crew, et cetera, which we don't have today. So. planning for that.
One airline was talking about something interesting, and it was they're screening the TSA employees that are coming to work. And they had a TSA employee that was given a hard time that they wouldn't let through. So that seemed like a different turnaround on,
Thanks.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Screen the screener.
No longer employed.
Yeah, right.
They made it clear that the person was very resistant, but they are no longer employed. So they refused to show a badge or to show anything ridiculous. So anyway, so we will have a written report for next month. We'll collaborate. So with that, we will go into closed session. Thank you all very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't we take welcome back. It's 11:18. We are back in session from closed session. And would you like to report out, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, there was no reportable action taken in closed session. Direction was given.
All right. And with that, I believe we are adjourned. Thank you very much. And I do want to acknowledge that Director Gagliotti did leave at 11:15, so he is no longer with us. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.